it's a topic no one likes to think about, but after it was revealed that former One Direction star Liam Payne tragically died without a will, leaving a question mark over his multi-million-pound fortune, it's highlighted the importance of having one in place.
Yeah, lawyer and will writer Daniel Wilson is here now to show us how easy it is to make one for free or get it done by a professional as well. Thank you for coming in, Daniel. I think it's an interesting thing, this, because all of a sudden, with such a high-profile case like this, it's a great way of you being able to explain why having a will is so important.
Absolutely. Morning, Kat. Morning,
morning,
Ben. Thank you. Absolutely. I mean, I think the significance of this case is not just, obviously, the personal element for Liam's son, Bear, and the family, but it's highlighted the fact that actually a very high proportion of the adult population don't have a will. So over 50%, if not 70%. And certainly it's also highlighted the fact that a will isn't something that's just for wealthy people or people who are elderly, but actually something that we should all be thinking about really as part of our life admin once we're an adult.
I mean, there is a really big estate involved here, £24 million. And it's interesting because we were talking about even getting a house these days. You'll go to a financial advisor to advise you on a mortgage, someone to advise you on insurance that you need. Someone will be there saying, right, now you've got that part of your life, you need to get a will as well. It's interesting that he didn't.
Exactly. I mean, you know, it's really common once you buy a property or life events take over that people around you will advise you to make a will. But unfortunately, it's one of those things that I suspect we're all guilty of putting off. It's not an immediate thing to do. But the unfortunate thing is if you don't have a will, then you lose that opportunity to control the sort of distribution of your estate.
So what does happen if you don't have a will? Say for instance, like Liam, how does then the money revert?
Yeah, so what happens is if you die without a will, you die intestate, and your estate is distributed under something called the laws of intestacy, which govern in a very strict way who will inherit your estate. But of course, that could be totally different to how you had wanted your estate to be distributed. And those laws are quite old-fashioned and archaic. So, for example, they won't take account of unmarried couples, people maybe who are financially dependent upon you. And increasingly, people have sort of blended families, more complicated lifestyles, and there's other people who would not be provided for in those laws of intestacy that they need to take account of.
So at what point do you advise, Daniel, people to start making the will?
So I think realistically, as soon as you're an adult, is a good time to start thinking about making a will. As I said, making a will isn't just something for wealthy people or elderly people to do. Most people start to accumulate an estate, but it's mainly life events. So buying a property, buying a property with somebody else and moving in with them, having children, getting married, getting divorced. Any of those kind of situations are the times when you would want to think about making a will. And I think it's something that really you want to do, you know, when you're younger, when it's not sort of critical, when you're not ill. The last thing you want is a situation where you're having to do these things in a rush, essentially.
Is it expensive, and do you have to use professionals to do it?
Absolutely not. I mean, there's a number of ways that you can make a will, Kat. So you can, of course, make a homemade will yourself.
Will that stand, even though it's...
It will stand, but the difficulty is that the chances that there's an error or there's a mistake in the will, perhaps you fail to execute the will correctly, or you fail to take account of things that you should have thought of, is much more increased. So I think that's really only suitable for a simple will. Obviously, you can use a solicitor like EMW Law or another firm who's a professional who's regulated in preparing wills. But there are also lots of will writing services, so services to help you prepare a will online, but also lots of free will schemes, so Will Aid, Free Wills Month, and lots of charity-related schemes where perhaps you can get a will prepared by a professional either for a fairly low cost or maybe for a donation to a charity, either in the will or at the time.
Talk us through the things you need to consider. So if some of our viewers are thinking, do you know what, I've been putting this off, I need to do something now, I'm going to go and get some of these online tools, I'm going to try and get some support, what are the things they need to consider?
So the key things to consider, Ben, are who do you want to benefit from your estate and how do you want it to be distributed, what assets you've got, potentially what the value of those assets are and where they're located, who you want to act as the executors of your will, so the people who will actually have the job of administering your estate, but also possibly, depending on your circumstances, things like guardians. So you can use a will to appoint guardians for minor children. But most professionally prepared wills, they'll start the process with a questionnaire that guides you through drawing out some of that information.
We were talking about this last night because we were doing this. I was talking about it with Annie, and of course, my Jack, who's my youngest, has just turned 18, so he's now an adult. And I was saying, oh, we should probably update our will because now the guardianship isn't necessary for both him and Sam. So that's something we've got to do.
Exactly. I mean, it's really common. One of the things that I'll see is clients who've made a will, possibly when they were first married and the children were really young, and then actually the children are now grown up or they're adults, and they've not reviewed their will for 20 years. I mean, we would suggest that you probably at least review your will every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. One of the most important things you can do is power of attorney, both in terms of finances and medical.
Absolutely, Kat. I mean, one of the things I would say is that really powers of attorney and wills go hand in hand.
Yeah.
In the sense that if you're doing one, you should really be thinking about the other. Powers of attorney, of course, lasting powers of attorney are something you do in your lifetime to give somebody the authority to make decisions on your behalf if you're unable to. And there are two types. One is in relation to property and financial affairs. The other is in relation to health and welfare. But they are equally important because I think we're seeing people obviously living longer, but not necessarily able to make decisions in relation to their affairs.
And one last thing as well on inheritance tax, of course, which is a hugely important part of any will. Lots of people this morning thinking, well, that's not going to affect me, I don't. But actually, it's worth understanding what inheritance tax is and how it affects people.
Yeah, so the basic inheritance tax threshold is £325,000. So if you've got an estate that's worth less than that, you wouldn't pay inheritance tax. Between husband and wife, transfers are exempt from inheritance tax as well as gifts to charity. So with a married couple or a couple in a civil partnership, it's quite common that there will only be any inheritance tax to pay on the second death. There is another allowance called the residence nil rate band, which is worth a further £175,000. So actually, when you distill it down and perhaps you have a chat with a solicitor or another professional, a lot of people will find that inheritance tax isn't the issue that they thought it was.
Yes.
But if you make a will, you've also got an opportunity to do some planning and maybe some lifetime gifts, which I think most people are aware of. If you survive 7 years, the gift is outside of your estate.
Right.
Daniel,
Excellent.
thank you for coming in.
It's really worth having a chat about,
really is.
Isn't it?
It's never the right time to do it. It's when the sun's
and
shining,
no one wants to do
glass
it.
of wine, everything's happy, do it then.
Yes. Glass
can
of
laugh
rosé
about it.
and yeah, exactly.
Oh, hello.
Thank you.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.